Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cube Ambassador. So, this week I've got a bit of a cold. It's not because I was in a crowded bus or anything like that and I didn't wear a mask, although it's possible. You never know where you get these things. But I suspect because I went out and did my workout in the snow yesterday, my kettlebell workout, and I only put on one layer of socks because I was stupid. That's what happens. Now, I'm not one of these nutheads who goes out like in their bathing suit in the snow. I mean, you can do that, but I'm not one of the ones who stands out there for 20 hours. I do jump into the lake sometimes on January 1st. Since I can't afford a Lamborghini midlife crisis, I jump in the lake, but only when it's cold. So this year it wasn't that cold. It was like +5. What's the point of jumping in the lake if it's +5, right? There's no snow. I mean, people think it's summer and you're like fooling around. Anyways, enough of that. So a little cold, nothing too bad. It might have been on. Went to a concert on Friday, so there was a packed subway, so that's possible too. You never know. End of the day, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist. So guess what? I never say 100% something, right? Now, when it comes to Kubernetes, there I'm a little more sure of myself. Okay, now, as far as Kubernetes is concerned, this was a great week. First of all, I did my first ever Twitter Spaces with my buddy Nitish Kumar, a fellow Code Cloud ambassador, and we talked about the KCNA exam. So you can get that on the recording. It's out there if you go to Code Cloud, or if you write me, I'll give you the link to it. Very interesting. I gave my opinion and things I thought might help preparing for that exam. This week, anything happening this week? Oh yeah, this week I'm actually talking about exams. My grade school teachers will be rolling in their graves. Wait a minute, some are probably still alive. I gotta be careful what I say. But yeah, I'm talking about exams all the time. It's kind of crazy, but I'm talking about all the Linux Foundation Kubernetes exams that I've done, and it's gonna be the Canadian East CNCF. So if you go to the Canadian CNCF, Google it, you'll find it, or ask me for the link. I can give you that as well. And I'm talking about all the exams. And something similar, except a little bit different from the Twitter Spaces. That was on the KCNA, and this is about my experience going from nothing to all the certifications. So, oops, excuse me there. Trying to give some advice and tell people what I think. And again, there are some people out there who are super experts, but they still don't do exams, and some people who are not experts and they do exams. So it's a really mixed community out there, and I'll try to give an opinion on how best to prepare. Okay, what else was great this week? Well, this week, Kasten came out with a new release. Okay, that's gonna be the topic today. It's a fantastic release, very interesting. Well, it's always fantastic to have a new release, exciting. But this one's especially interesting because they've added something called TransformSets. Okay, now I don't know, I remember there used to be this cartoon, the Transformers, where these things would all change and whatever. Kind of similar to the same thing, right? But remember, transforms, you can leverage transforms when you want to restore and you want to change something. So if you want to change the number of replicas in your deployment when you're restoring, you can transform it. This is often used in DR scenarios. Why? Because you can transform your deployment down to 0 replicas, which means everything's there ready to go, but it's not running, so it's not using up resources. Very important, especially on cloud providers where they're going to charge you. Okay. Other things you can do, which are very important, storage class changes. You can change storage class. So if in one cluster I'm using one type of storage class and I'm restoring to another cluster as a different type of storage class, you can change the storage class name, storage class for your persistent volume claim. Okay. So those are two. There's a lot of other scenarios you can do. I haven't really played with any of the others yet, but those are the two most common. Okay. However, I guess the issue was that every time you did this, you had to create the transforms. You couldn't just like save them. I mean, you could remember how to do them or whatever, and I think you could keep them in a YAML format as well. But what Kasten have done now, they're allowing you to save these transform sets, so you can just pull them out. And I'm going to show you that today. Okay, so very, very useful. Again, Kasten continues to widen its offerings, to widen its flexibility, to make things easier for you. So it's great to see this kind of thing. All right. Let's go and take a look at the release page. Remember, you always look at the release page because that's basically where they're telling you about the release. Here, there's also, by the way, added support for overriding built-in backup workflow for crunchy data, Postgres operator, and KS Cassandra. Custom blueprints can now be used by annotating the CRs. Okay, so I'm personally not a crunchy data progress expert or Cassandra. I've done Cassandra a bit. I think I had to do some Cassandra when I was dealing with vCloud Director and VMware. Nevertheless, that's been added. But as you can see here, added support for transform sets, okay? And again, they kindly give you a link in the documentation, so we can like press that and go, and there it is. And it's going to tell you all about transform sets and how to use them. Okay, so that's great, and we're going to do that right now. I'll show you a quick demo. Yeah, I mean, there's also some bug fixes, so issues, fixes, whatever. Upgraded to go 119.6 to mitigate security vulnerabilities. Always nice to hear. Okay, so enough babbling, Jeff. Let's bring up my little cluster. Okay, well, I got two little clusters, right? Because one little cluster, I mean, I could do it with one cluster, but it's more fun to do it with two. So I have this cluster here. These are both K3S because it's fast and quick, and I like that. To create, let's see what we've got here. Let's get our namespaces. Okay, so I see an Nginx namespace, so let's just see if there's something in there. Well, what do we want to see? We want to see, of course, the persistent volume claim. Let's just see. Oh, guess what? My connection to the lab. Oh, there we go. It's slowed down. On purpose, it slowed down just before the show. I figured I'd do this on a Sunday morning. Everyone's asleep or doing something else, but they... oh, that's Kasten. That's not what I wanted to see. I got frazzled there. Okay. You got to keep your cool under all scenarios, right? That's disaster recovery, is you keeping your cool. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a persistent volume claim, and as you can see, the storage class is CSI host path storage class. Okay, so it's a local one I'm using. Let's take a look at the pods, just so you believe me. Again, this is slowing down. Oh, how annoying. It happens. It's all that Netflix being watched. Okay, so there's one pod running. All right, so what do I have in this cluster here? I have, okay, no Nginx. You see, there's Argo CD. I'm showing off. But what I do have in this cluster, the second cluster, I've also got CSI host path, CS, but I've also got OpenEBS, okay? OpenEBS is another great little tool. I think a post to the community hub about it. Basically, you can use OpenEBS and it has snapshotting too, right? So just like you can use for your demo labs, whatever, if you don't have a big big CSI like vSphere or something like that, you could use CSI host path and you can use OpenEBS. Install them in your cluster and use them, okay? Of course, in Minikube, you can install local host path because it's in there as an add-on, but these are just K3Ss, so they don't come with any default. Well, they come with this local path one, but that you can't snapshot, okay? All right, so what am I gonna do? And by the way, my shows are limited to 15 minutes, so this might be a double header today. What's a double header? Well, if people don't know baseball, it's when they play two games instead of one during a day. And the idea is you pay for one game, right? But you get two. The problem is that I used to like baseball. Now I find it really boring. So to sit through one game is hard enough. To sit through two games, that's just not me. It's not exciting enough, Anyways, after World Cup soccer, all right, I'll get the tomatoes and things thrown at me from the Americans and some Canadians too. So that's our setup. So what am I going to do? Okay, well, I'm going to show you now. I've got my two clusters. So that's the first cluster, which I'm backing up. And I'll just show you the complaint policy. Nginx, there it is. I backed it up. It's got 6 restore points, but I've only got 2 going to the other side because I had them local first. It was a test. Let's go to the other side. This is my other side. Now, I've got already an import job. I already imported this, okay? So this is the other cluster, and I used an import job, right? So I've imported it from the S3. I imported it, and it's coming up in a second. It's a little bit slow. There it is. So from Wasabi Immute, so immutable, yes, I'm leveraging immutable, and I imported that. So what happens after I imported it? Well, after I imported it, it shows up in here under removed because it thinks it was removed. In fact, it wasn't removed, it's been imported, okay? So that's there, so I don't have to use a key or anything like that because it's been imported. So let's go to restores and I'll show you what I mean. So, before I do that, let me show you my transform set. So as you can see here on the left, there's a new section called TransformSets, okay? And I've got one, and I called it DR test. And I've got 2 transforms in there, so you can combine multiple transforms. This is really, really convenient because if you're a big organization and you've got like tons of transforms you want to do, you can now combine them in here, okay? Well, look at this. Very straightforward. You add a transform, and then you've got whatever it does in here. So for instance, what am I doing? My second transform, I'm bringing replicas down to 0 just to show off that DR capability again. But the first one here, and you go here to press the value to see it, I'm replacing the storage class name with OpenEBS ZFS PV, okay? Because that's the storage class name I'm going to use, okay? All right, we're going to save those changes. And The other one, basically, I can show you the other one too, but the other one is basically we're going to reduce down to 0 the number of replicas, and then I can scale it up to 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Hopefully for time, we've got 5 minutes left. This can be a rush, so let's go back to our removed, and we're going to do a restore. And basically, let's do it from yesterday, right? So here it is, restore, right? It's found it. Create a namespace. Well, I don't have a namespace, so I'm going to create a namespace, and I'll call it Nginx. That was the original namespace. I could have created anything. It'll go in there. But this is the key thing right here. I'm going to apply transforms. Now, before you used to create your transform, you could, but instead now I can do this. Add a reference to an existing transform set. Okay? I put it in there. I could have multiple, by the way, but there it is, dr test. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to press restore. Now, on my test systems, I don't know how long this will take. Hopefully, it'll be quick, but we can look in real time, see what's happening. So this is the, let's clear this. This is the environment where I'm restoring. Oh, look, and that namespace has been created. So that's obviously going to happen quickly because it's just creating a namespace. But now let's take a look and see. Whoops, a little bit slow. Let's see if it's been able to get the persistent volume claim. Now, it's going to scale to 0 because that's what I told it to do. So we'll have to see. Let's get PV. Again, my connection's a little bit slow today. So let me just go in here and see. Nginx. See the pods. So it's still going. I'm being impatient. It's because I'm running out of time. So I might have to cut this into 2 videos. I'm at 11 minutes. By default, Google gives me 15 for my free account. They want me to pay. I don't want to. Okay, so we'll just watch it. The namespace has been created, so we know that's good. That's always the first step. That is the old cluster right there. So we'll take a look. Now I'm scaling to 0, so I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. I actually never watched it when I've scaled it to 0. Nginx. Again, this could just be a time factor. I'm being impatient. We can actually press on this and see what it's up to. It's working. We know that. There's no errors. So normally, this is a good point, good place to point this out. If you do get errors, you'll start to see it over here. And you can then right-click it. And then the good thing is you can actually press on showing the YAML, and that'll show you details. It says details of action or whatever. Hopefully, I don't have to show you because I don't get an error. And then you can copy that and paste it. Okay. How we do it for time? I might have to split today into 2 videos. I said double header. Of course, you might think that I'm tricking you and that I've gone and fixed everything behind the scenes. Not the case. We can look at the timestamps. Okay, let's go back to here. Still working away. Again, I'm a little surprised about the delay here the network situation, because it wasn't super fast earlier. I've tested this already, obviously, but I'm getting some delays when I press in the command. Okay, so I'm running up to 13 minutes now, so I'm going to have to stop here. Might have failed there. That was earlier when I was fooling around with it. So I will stop this and have a second video too. So you get 2 videos for the price of 1. I might not go the whole 50 minutes, but we will see you in the next video. If I can figure out how to stop this one. Be right back.